"You've got to be kidding me," she said. "The faster we dig, the faster we get to go home." Home wasn't home so much as a hotel room stocked only with Sydney's stolen clothes, Mitch's chocolate milk, and Victor's files, but that wasn't the point. At this moment, home would have been any place that wasn't Merritt Cemetery. Sydney eyed the grave, tightening her fingers on the wooden grip. Victor had already begun to dig. "What if," she said, swallowing, "what if the other people accidentally wake up?" "They won't," cooed Victor. "Just focus on this grave. Besides," he looked up from his work, "since when are you afraid of bodies?" "I'm not," she snapped back, too fast and with all the force of someone used to being the younger sibling, which she was, just not Victor's. "Look at it this way," he teased, dumping a pile of dirt onto the grass. "If you do wake them up, they can't go anywhere. Now dig." Sydney leaned forward, her short blonde hair falling into her eyes, and began to dig. The two worked in the dark, only Victor's occasional humming and the thud of the shovels filling the air. Thud, thud, thud. 2. 10 years ago. Lakeland University. Victor drew a steady, straight black line through the word Marvel. The paper they'd printed the text on was thick enough to keep the ink from bleeding through, so long as he didn't press down too hard. He stopped to reread the altered page, and winced as one of the metal flourishes on Lakeland University's wrought iron fence dug into his back. The school prided itself on its country club meets Gothic manor ambiance, but the ornate railing that encircled Lakeland, though striving to evoke both the university's exclusive nature and its old-world aesthetic, succeeded only in being pretentious and suffocating. It reminded Victor of an elegant cage. He shifted his weight and repositioned the book on his knee, wondering at the sheer size of it as he twirled the Sharpie over his knuckles. It was a self-help book, the latest in a series of 5 by the world-renowned Doctors Vale. The very same Vales who were currently on an international tour. The very same Vales who had budgeted just enough time in their busy schedules, even back before they were best-selling empowerment gurus, to produce Victor. He thumbed back through the pages until he found the beginning of his most recent undertaking and began to read. For the first time, he wasn't effacing a Vale book simply for pleasure. No, this was for credit. Victor couldn't help but smile. He took an immense pride in paring down his parents' works, stripping the expansive chapters on empowerment down to simple, disturbingly effective messages. He'd been blacking them out for more than a decade now, since he was 10. A painstaking but satisfying affair. But until last week, he'd never been able to count it for anything as useful as school credit. Last week, when he'd accidentally left his latest project in the art studios over lunch, Lakeland University had a mandatory art credit, even for budding doctors and scientists. He'd come back to his teacher poring over it. He'd expected a reprimand, some lecture on the cultural cost of defacing literature, or maybe the material cost of paper. Instead, the teacher had taken the literary destruction as art. He'd practically supplied the explanation, filled in any blanks using terms such as expression, identity, found art, reshaping. Victor had only nodded and offered a perfect word to the end of the teacher's list, rewriting. And just like that, his senior art thesis had been determined. The marker hissed as he drew another line, blotting out several sentences in the middle of the page. His knee was going numb from the weight of the tome. If he were in need of self-help, he would search for a thin, simple book, one whose shape mimicked its promise. But maybe some people needed more. Maybe some people scanned the shelves for the heftiest one, assuming that more pages meant more emotional or psychological aid. He skimmed the words and smiled as he found another section to ink out. By the time the first bell rang, signaling the end of Victor's art elective, he turned his parents' lectures on how to start the day into be lost, give up, give in. In the end, it would be better to surrender before you begin. Be lost, and then you will not care if you are ever found. He'd had to strike through entire paragraphs to make the sentence perfect after he accidentally marked out ever and had to go on until he found another instance of the word. But it was worth it. The pages of black that stretched between...